Welcome to The Reconnect with Carmen LaBerge. We're applying the mind of Christ to the matters of the day so that you can connect the eternal with the everyday and get ready to head out into the world that God so loves in ways that honor Jesus. So let's get started. This is The Reconnect.
Encouraging you to live as an ambassador of God's kingdom in the world.
This is The Reconnect with Carmen LaBerge on Faith Radio.
If we're gonna fly, we fly like eagles, arms out wide. If we're gonna fear, we fear no evil. We will rise. By your power we will go. By your spirit we are bold. If we're gonna stand, we stand as giants. If we're gonna walk, we walk as lions.
Hello, my friend. Just in case nobody has said this yet to you today, or maybe even this week, I love you. I love that we get together. I love that we talk about a wide range of things. I love that we talk about substantive things. I love that we dig into the Word of God. I love that we bring the mind of Christ to bear on the headline news of the day, but also pray for each other. I love the engagement on the text line. I love hearing from you. And so maybe you've never texted in. I'd love to hear from you today. Anything. Like, you could just be like, hey, my name's Tina and I'm in Tampa and hi. Like, whatever. Like, right? 877-933-2484. I love you. I love my job because I love what we get to do here together every single day, Monday to Friday. And I love it. And I love you. So there you go. That's sometimes just off script. And you're like, sometimes people just need to be reminded. And so I just thought today I should remind you. Not only does God love you, which is super duper more important than me loving you, but I love you too. So there you go. Now back to my notes for the day. What totally unexpected thing might you be inspired or compelled to do today? I mean, I know you're like, well, I can't really expect it because it's unexpected, but I'm going to make you think about it anyway. Like, what totally unexpected thing might you be inspired or compelled to do today? So last week in Oklahoma, a regular dude, when I say like he is regular and normal, he is like us. His name is Kirk Moore. And he has been serving in one way, shape, or form in public education for 31 years. And so, like every other, day of every other week of a lot of years in a row, Kirk Moore headed to Pauls Valley High School, where he serves as the principal. There are 6,200 students at Pauls Valley High School. There are hundreds of faculty and staff. Kirk had no reason to expect that day would be unlike any other day. And you know this, I mean, in public education, I'm sure that, as a, you just always gotta expect the unexpected, right? 6,200 teenagers is just a lot of teenagers. So, he's been doing this faithfully for a long time. And like every other high school principal in America, Kirk Moore has overseen all kinds of emergency drills, tornado drills, active shooter drills, all kinds of stuff. But even though you've been trained, even though you've been exposed, even though you've got 31 years in as a public educator, there's no way you could have anticipated that on that day, you'd be inspired or compelled to do something extraordinary. Totally unexpected. Maybe you've already seen the video, maybe not. Kirk Moore, last week, when an armed former student walked into Pauls Valley High School with a loaded gun and a desire to carry out a Columbine-like attack, Kirk Moore did not hesitate. He turned in the direction of the shooter. He ran through a set of double doors and at full speed, even though he was being shot at, Principal Kirk Moore ran right into the firing line. He got shot in the leg. He still tackled the 20-year-old to the ground and held him there until authorities arrived minutes later. So let me ask you again, what totally unexpected thing might you be inspired, not required, but inspired or compelled to do today? I share that with you because none of us knows. We don't know what the day holds. We don't know. We don't know what evil has planned. We don't know what the enemy is scheming. I mean, we know he's always prowling around looking for a way in, right? Looking for a way to steal, kill, and destroy. So in the midst of a world where we don't know what the day holds, but we know who holds the day, in a day when we don't know what evil has planned, but we know that evil is planning something, do we know who we are? Do you know who you are? Because I know who I am. I know where I'm going when I die. And I know that I'm in this world to serve as a provisional demonstration of the kingdom of God. And so do you. You know you're in the world to represent Christ. And so it's not only knowing what Jesus would do and what Jesus has done, but what Jesus has commanded us to do, what Jesus expects us to do. What does it mean for you and I to go today and do likewise? What does that mean? Kirk Moore might have died, but he didn't. In fact, nobody died. The shooter didn't die. The principal didn't die. None of the 6,200 students were even injured. Had Principal Kirk Moore not done what he did, I feel confident he would be attending a funeral, at least one today. He would have had to stand at press conferences. He would have joined a horrible club of educators whose careers ended when people of evil intent entered their places of work and opened fire on their kids. Not every principal, not every teacher, not every janitor is in a position to put their own life between the shooter and the kids. Not every adult on the scene is in a position to rush the assailant. But some have been, and some will be. What does love compel us to do when the enemy is prowling around, scheming, looking for ways to devour not only us, but others? Justin Giboney is just one of my favorite people in the whole world. He's going to join us next. And I thought that after reading and listening to and considering a number of people who have been putting forth their sort of vision for the nation, putting forward or casting their vision even for a quote-unquote Christian nation, I've been thinking about the language of politicians in the past and the vision they cast for the country, some of them using expressly religious language in doing that. I mean, Abraham Lincoln, right? Wants us to be better angels. Ronald Reagan wants us to be a shining city on a hill. George Washington said, no people can be bound to acknowledge and adore the invisible hand which conducts the affairs of men more than those of the United States. That's an expressly religious statement and vision for the country. Thomas Jefferson had a religious vision for the country, recognizing that every single human being is endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. You can't escape the religious language of the Declaration of Independence. FDR, George Bush. I mean, we ask the Almighty to protect all those who battle for freedom throughout the world, and we ask God to shield innocents from harm. That's expressly religious language. So, what kind of vision would you cast for America if you were given the opportunity to do so? We're going to have a vision conversation with Justin Giboney next. You're listening to The Reconnect. I have to wear glasses now to read, at least most of the time, at least early in the day and late at night. Are you nearsighted? Are you farsighted? What kind of vision do you have? And then let's talk vision casting. We're going to take up the vision question with our friend Justin Giboney from the AND campaign. His most recent book, Don't Let Nobody Turn You Around, How the Black Church's Public Witness Leads Us Out of the Culture War. Justin, welcome back to The Reconnect.
Hey, Carmen, how's it going? Always glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have you. I felt confident that you have given some thought to this question, and so I'm going to just pose it. Like, if someone were to ask you the vision question, what's your vision? What's your vision for the nation? What's your vision for your family? I don't know how you would receive the vision question, but I'm going to put it in front of you. How do you answer the vision question when you're asked?
Yeah, I think vision starts with what ought to be. And so the hard part about vision is that, and this is true for Christians as well, is that we also often get so arrested by the moment, who we dislike, what we haven't been able to do, things that are holding us back, that we're really unable to have a vision of how things should be and where we could be going. And this is one of the reasons that I've been so insistent about really trying to inspire people instead of consistently just talking about who we're against and what's being done to us. And I think that's for all Christians. I think we can really get caught up in that. So the first thing about vision is not being arrested by the moment and being able to see beyond the moment what should be. And so when I look at vision for this country, it has to at some point be the realization that we are knit together, that our destinies, whether we like each other or not, whether you're conservative or progressive, our destinies are tied together. Neither side is just going to disappear. So the vision that we have has to be something that we build together. And I know that it can sound Pollyannish, but it's the truth. If you look at most of America's greatest accomplishments, there was kind of like this collaboration, so for instance, when we talk about things like equal representation and free speech, these are things that the founders talk about quite a bit. And then it's the civil rights movement that brings us closer to it, right? There's always this sort of separated collaboration in America that I think has to come together. So we have to first realize, to have the proper vision, that we're in this together, that we need each other, and that our best work has actually been a collaboration almost in spite of ourselves.
The image that came forward, because I do think that part of vision is helping people see or draw a new picture or see something that they're not seeing, which I appreciate when you talk about, it's like vision starts with what ought to be. Well, that means that I got to be able to see something that I'm seeing around myself right now.
That's right.
And so that's helpful. Like, right, it is visual in a sense, and the word inspiration helps us there as well. The image that came to mind is that somehow we need to move beyond like the tug of war, like tugging against one another as if, there's these, and instead see all of us as pulling together in the same direction. But that requires that one group or the other turns in, we all got to be facing the same direction if we're all going to pull together in the same direction. Does that image, do you see what I'm trying to get at? I'm trying to get at giving people something almost visual that they can, in the midst of whatever's going on in a given conversation or a given day, they can be like, okay, I'm going to have to turn and grab the rope and pull in the same direction as this other person, because this tug of war is never going to end.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the first African-American representatives, United States representatives, Richard Kane, he gives a speech where he says that God put us all here in America for this grand experiment to show that we're all children of one father, and that we're here to explore the sciences and all these other things and take them as far as we can take them, but we have to do it together. Now, this was said by somebody who most of his people in his community had just gotten out of slavery, but somehow he has the vision and the moral imagination to say, no, I see why God put us all here together. We're not going to get rid of each other. We have to find a way to work together. And let's be honest, that's even within our disagreements, right? So there's never going to be a time where we all agree, but especially in the church. I don't, Carmen, I do not think we can expect this from the rest of the world if the church that has the same great commission, that has the same great commandment, can't come together and make this happen. If we can't be known for our love, I don't know how we expect the rest of the country to be able to do that. I think that we are well positioned as a church to create that example. The question is, do we have the will to do it? But I think Richard H. Kane was correct. We are here for this grand experiment. And I don't know that we're passing the test right now, but I believe that we can.
It's a long experiment. It's interesting that language is actually the language that Europeans still use in relationship to America. I remember, so I was probably 10, 11, 12, and my dad was in an organization that had counterparts around the world. And these people from Switzerland came and stayed at our home. I'd never met anybody from anywhere else. Right. Like your geography is like who's in the neighborhood next to you. And so I was fascinated by it. And literally they would ask of other people, they would ask the question, well, so how is the experiment going? And by it, they meant America.
Right.
And so I think we imagine that it's always been like this. This place is always there's an enduring quality to it, but it only endures one generation to the next as people are willing to take up the experiment.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It's funny you bring that up because I've actually been reading de Tocqueville lately, and we know a lot of the ideas in his book Democracy in America are just that. It's him reporting back to France and others saying this is what's going on in America. And he sees a lot of promise in what he calls like the absolute rule of the people, the absolute rule of the people and how we're conducting that. Now, we know beneath all that is slavery, later Jim Crow and all those things. But there always has been this promise that we've been trying to reach, these ideals that we've been trying to reach. And I think we just get in our own way too often. And what I don't want the church to do, because I'm seeing this, and this is probably worries me more than anything, I'm seeing a lot of Christians be radicalized by kind of Christian nationalism, a nativism, but also an identity idolatry, where we are kind of huddling up in our own groups as a form of protection. But within doing that, we're not building relationships outside of that group. And so when you hear us talk about one another, we're talking about one another without the relationship. And again, if the church can't pull that together, and I think we will, then it's going to be very tough for the world to be able to do that when they don't have all the same things in common that we do.
Yeah. So I think that juxtaposing, first of all, recognizing and then juxtaposing those two different kinds of huddling up and among ourselves, Christian nationalism being one of those, but then also the one where there's this protectionism or isolationism where we're gonna build a hedge of protection around our own, and we're gonna survive as some kind of enclave apart from the rest of the culture. Both of those have devastating consequences for the culture that we are sent into as ambassadors and agents of grace. All right, let's take a brief break. When we come back, let's continue this conversation. Justin Giboney is here with us from the AND campaign. His latest book, Don't Let Nobody Turn You Around, How the Black Church's Public Witness Leads Us Out of the Culture War. I'm going to ask Justin to maybe give us some examples from the Black Church and how not only does the Black Church bring the vision forward and cast vision, but also compels us in ways that, I mean, here's my language, it makes it sing. Like you can have a vision that actually is joyful and leads people to a collective witness that sings. That's up next here on the Reconnect. Just take the first step. Just take the first step. I mean, every journey begins with a first step, right? And if you want to hike to the top of a mountain, or if you just want to, well, make it around the block, it all starts with a first step. Just take one step, a step out the door. Now, the same holds true in the journey of discipleship with Jesus. A relationship with Jesus actually begins with a first step. Sometimes taking that first step can be really hard, right? Well, if you've got questions about what it means to begin a relationship with Jesus, just take the first step. Text the word faith to 41224. Our friends at the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association are going to hold your hand as you take the first step or the next step in your walk of faith with Jesus. They're going to help you walk with him and talk with him. Take the first step of faith today. Text the word faith to 41224. If somebody were to ask you, what's your vision for the nation? What's your vision for your family? What's your vision? How do you answer vision questions? We tend to get vision questions organizationally. So your organization where you work or your church probably has a vision statement. Does your family have a vision statement? Do we as Christians have a vision statement? Do we envision a positive possible future? Or are we just like wringing our hands and, praying, come Lord Jesus, which, come Lord Jesus, amen. But in the meantime, what does it look like to be the people who are redemptively serving as a living demonstration of the kingdom of God in the midst of the kingdoms of this world? So Justin Giboney is here with us, fellow American, fellow Christian. You can listen to him at the Church Politics podcast. You can find him at andcampaign.org. Justin, when we talk about vision and we talk about a positive, compelling vision, what does the Black church have to teach us?
I think it has so much to teach you. And I want to be clear about this book. This book is looking at the civil rights generation. So when I talk about the Black church, I'm talking about that generation. And it's a challenge to the church as a whole right now. So I think it's a challenge to the white evangelical church, but it's also a challenge to the Black church of today, right? So I just want to be clear. It's not an exaltation of one church, but it is an example that I think we can all do better to follow today. There's so many different principles that they had that I think speak into what we're going through today. One of the things that that church was about was they were very good at taking the church, the spirit of the church, into their social engagement. And so when you hear them singing spirituals as they march or as they protest, they're not singing these things just to pass the time or just to have something to say. These spirituals are serving as disciplines, as they walk through fire hoses or dogs or people cursing at them and calling them names. The songs that they're singing remind them of the standards that God has set for them, that they can't return evil for evil. So the name of my book comes from the song, Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Around, right? Which is to say, as I'm walking towards freedom, I'm not gonna let anger or name calling or any of those things stop me from trying to be righteous. And one of the things that they realize that I don't think we get today is that you can be fighting against an evil and also become evil yourself. We tend to think that once I've identified a bad person on the other side, a bad politician, a bad concept, a bad policy, as long as I'm fighting it, I'm good. That's false. You can become evil while fighting evil. You can fight it in the wrong way. They were focused on maintaining the righteous spirit of their cause, even as they fought against things that were bad, knowing that could have an impact on them too. I think that's something that we have to take with us. We can't have this very simple and reductive good versus evil narrative. We may be very right that there's some evil on the other side of us. It does not mean that we're good, and we have to always be deliberate about making sure that we're doing the right things too. So there was just so many principles that they lived by that I think we really need to apply today.
When we talk about the vision, there are people who immediately when they hear you and I use language that sounds at some level to them divisive. So we refer to the Black church. And to them, that immediately sounds like we're advocating or elevating one expression over another. You are clearly interested in an all y'all approach. Like you are one of the most collaborative individuals that I know, and absolutely committed to and working across like every line of division that's out there. And so make the appeal for all of us and every one of us to move in the direction today of a conversation with a person who we know is either has some different ideas or some different viewpoints or even a different vision, because you're really good at that.
No, I appreciate it. And it's interesting, that some people do get upset when you say something about the Black church. But I don't know that people get upset when you say something, about the Dutch Reformed Church, right? I mean, it's a frame of reference. We know that there's just one
Which,
church,
by the way, happens to be kind of white.
Right, and here's the thing. I mean, we know that there's one church, right? But it is, I think, helpful when you're talking about different traditions, and that's all that we're talking about. As far as us being in relationship with somebody we disagree with. Carmen, I don't think we have to look any further than Jesus and his disciples. If we needed to have the same ideology, if we needed to agree on all the issues to be together, there would not have been 12 disciples. Where you have a zealot, you have a tax collector, you have fishermen who certainly did not agree on a lot of social issues. But what were they called to do? They were called to drop everything and follow Jesus. And let me tell you this, one of the ugliest and worst things we can believe, which is just a lie, is that we know somebody based on how they vote or based on a few of their political opinions. That is ridiculous. Everybody's going through the human condition. People are dealing with addiction, abandonment, heartbreak, all the things that we go through. You do not know somebody based on how they voted. And that's one of the most unchristian things I can think of. Somebody can be terribly wrong in some of the policies they support or even in who they voted for. You can have that opinion. That doesn't mean they don't have anything to contribute to your life. That's a lie that I think even a lot of Christians have started to accept, that you are defined by your political opinions, and I can decide whether or not you are worthy of my friendship or being a neighbor based on that. That is just not Christian. Because if we're going to be honest, all of us have gotten things wrong, but there are people who are terribly wrong on an issue that matters to me. There are people who I might think are wrong on race. Does not mean they have nothing to offer me. Because if that were the case, you'd never have Paul. You never have a lot of people that we see in the Bible that got things wrong, but clearly were being used by God.
That's so good. We love talking with you. A lot of affection for you on the text line. People so glad to hear your voice and glad you're back. So thank you for the ongoing conversation that we're having. We look forward to next time. My pleasure. Take care, Carmen. Yeah. Thanks for having me. That's Justin Giboney. You can find him at Campaign, A-N-D, campaign.org. His latest book, Don't Let Nobody Turn You Around, How the Black Church's Public Witness Leads Us Out of the Culture War. All right, now we're going to go green. I don't exactly know what that means, but are you seeing green? Green jacket? I mean, immediately when I use the term green, those of you in Green Bay are like, yes, we see green. How about the Celtics? They're green. Think about some green teams. Okay, not all the teams or the players that we're going to talk about are green, but all the storylines are going to exalt Jesus. Our friend Jason Romano is going to join us next from Sports Spectrum. You're listening to The Reconnect. I love talking with Jason Romano from Sports Spectrum because he's always bringing us great stories of Christian men and women from the sports world. And so, Jason, welcome back to the Reconnect.
It's great to be back, Carmen. How you doing?
Good. I have a thematic approach for you to take in an upcoming. I don't know. I don't know how to pitch this to you, but it came to me, and I thought, I'm like Jason's idea person, so I should pitch it. So here it is.
Let's go. Yeah.
There should be like a color themed. Like we just do all the teams or athletic things that are green or orange or blue or red or yellow. You see the theme, right? So
I see the theme.
I feel like with green, like you could have done, okay, well, we got the green jacket of the Masters, but we've also got the Green Bay Packers or the Philadelphia Eagles or the Minnesota Wild or the Oakland Athletics or the Boston Celtics, or you see how much fun it could be, right? You just do like one color.
Yeah.
Because it could span. There's probably people playing soccer who wear green jerseys, and I just don't know.
I like it. The green jacket for the Masters and the Boston Celtics in the playoffs right now. Yeah, we can find something there, I think.
I feel like it's a thread you could pull. I feel like yellow or gold are good ones as well. I'm sure there are now going to be people advocating for their color, but there you have it.
Color bias, right? Color bias.
Yes,
no, I like that.
We could. I mean, at some point, aren't you guys like searching around for a theme for something? Well, there you go. You could be at some point in the future. You're going to be like, you know what? Carmen planted the color theme seed, and we're gonna see what comes of it.
Well, you know how there's a day for everything and anything in the world? Whatever National Color Day is, let's find that, and then let's do something with it.
Capitalize on it. Tell us about Jameis Winston from the New York Giants.
Jameis Winston. So we had Jameis on our podcast about a week and a half ago, and it's really interesting. If you're not a football fan, you might not know the name because of, the fact that he's, more of a backup quarterback now. He was the number one pick. The draft is next week, the NFL draft, next Thursday night, so a week from tonight. And Jameis, 11 years ago, was the number one overall pick in the NFL draft by the Buccaneers. So he came in with a lot of high expectations after his college career with a lot of success at Florida State. He played with Tampa for many years and then went on to play with the Saints for 4 seasons, but never really became this, what the expectations are for a number one pick, which is legendary, Super Bowl winning quarterback, that type of thing. But there's not a more charismatic, genuinely joyful follower of Jesus in the NFL than Jameis Winston. I'll just say it that way. And I feel confident in saying that. And you can ask anybody who's been around him. He is so full of joy. And when you're around him, you would not know that maybe he's a backup quarterback now and, didn't, go on and win a Super Bowl yet, I'll say, because he does say in the show that he believes he's going to win a Super Bowl someday still at 30. I think he's 32 right now, 33. But this is a guy who is as outspoken about his faith as anyone you'll meet. But people gravitate toward him, Carmen. It's really fascinating to watch him. We were privileged to sit down with him about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago at a conference. And it's really, really interesting to watch Jameis Winston turn into this I don't know, this kind of like a Tim Tebow-like figure in the NFL, where he's not just on football shows and talking about football. Like Major League Baseball had their opening day on Netflix a couple weeks back, and Jameis was invited to be sort of a sideline reporter. And I thought, what is it about Jameis that's so fascinating? And obviously, I think it's his genuine love for people. He loves his wife and kids, but he loves Jesus, and he's very outspoken about it.
The let love be genuine, like when that's true, when that characterizes a person, other people feel it.
Yes.
Like, it's not, like genuine love isn't just something that we see, it's something that we feel. So my guess is
I've been around Jameis too, Carmen, a couple times, and he makes me feel like I'm the most important person in the room when he's talking to me. And I got 5 minutes maybe with him, 10 minutes in the different settings that I've been around with him. And he will look you in the eye and just genuinely make you feel like you are the most important person in the room. And that's a skill that is not common among athletes. They're looking to get out, or they're looking to make themselves the most important person in the room. And it's a genuine love, like you just said.
I appreciate that. Thank you for bringing him to the forefront of the conversation. Again, you can check out what we're talking about at sportsspectrum.com. The podcast is where you'll find Jameis Winston from the New York Giants. And we're happy to send you these links on the text line, 877-933-2484. All right, from football to basketball and from the professional level to college sports, tell us about Corey Close.
Corey Close. Well, national champion head coach Corey Close is how she can now go about being introduced, because she helped her team, the UCLA Bruins, the Lady Bruins, win a national title. And it was the first time in a long time that they had won a national title. And it was really fun to watch her, because she's really built this program from the ground up over the last few years. When I had a chance to talk to her, it was probably 2021, I think, when I had her on our podcast. And even then, she was very confident in her faith, I'll just say, and understood that culture and building a culture as a coach for her reflected her values in Christ. And it was so much fun to watch her celebrating. I mean, listen to what she said. She said, she's referencing Ephesians 3, verse 20. She said, "It's beyond my wildest dreams. It would be shallow without amazing and incredible people that have poured into me my whole life. It's immeasurably more than I could ask or imagine." And it was really fun to watch her talk about how it was a calling to come to UCLA 15 years ago. And it's a calling that she says God told me to do, and to do it this way. We always said we were going to do it in an uncommon, transformational way. And she leads with faith out in front. She loves her players. She's really good as a coach in developing players who mostly got drafted. I think 4 or 5 players from her team got drafted this past week in the WNBA draft. But it's really encouraging, right, to see somebody out there having a lot of success as a coach, impacting these young people, but leading as a follower of Jesus first.
I suspect that there have been opportunities in recent days, and those will be ongoing, as the social trolling is like totally wild out there, that the president of the United States has not in any way reached out or acknowledged this particular national championship, which is apparently something that the president normally does. And so, you know what? That's probably an opportunity for her to talk to her players about humility and about, you know what? You don't, just because somebody out there, one person doesn't acknowledge your victory, doesn't take the shine off of it at all. So there you go. And then nobody has to ask the question about whether or not they're going to the White House because they haven't been invited.
That's very true. That's very true.
You don't have to decide whether or not to take an invitation if you don't get one. So there you go.
That is true. You
let's
can't crash the party.
No, you can't. Let's take a brief break, and when we come back, let's pivot from college ball to the NBA. When we come back, Jason Romano is going to tell us about Joe Mazzulla, whose name I might be mispronouncing, from the Celtics. Yeah, they're green. That's up next here on the Reconnect. Hey, I really like it that you listen whenever you want, wherever you are, at all times of the day and night. That is so cool. So thank you so very much for all the ways in which you support this ministry with your prayers and words of encouragement. Right now, in order for this podcast to be available everywhere all the time for everyone, I actually need your help. Could you support this podcast right now so that more people in more places at every hour of every day could hear about Jesus and grow in their relationship with him? Click the link in the show notes or give now at myfaithradio.com. And thank you so much again for listening to this podcast. Who are you rooting for? Whose jersey are you putting on? What gets you like out of your seat screaming? I would love to say that that's how we respond in worship services at church, and that, you know, we're all wearing the Jesus jerseys, but it's true. A lot of us are putting on the jerseys of our favorite teams. Let's talk about the NBA and one of the members of the Boston Celtics. Jason Romano is here to talk about Joe Mazzulla, whose name I might be mispronouncing.
No, you pronounced it perfect, Carmen. Good job.
Oh, and he's the coach. I did get that part wrong.
He is
So
the
he's not
head
even
coach,
wearing a
yeah.
jersey. He's wearing suits, which I still don't understand. Why do baseball coaches and managers wear
Right.
baseball uniforms? And why do people who are coaching on the court of a basketball game wearing suits?
Good question. I think the suit is actually kind of going away and out of style with coaches, though. I'll say, if you watch, NBA coaches for the most part, I think the majority of them, they kind of just wear like gear, if you will, Celtics gear, like a Celtics shirt. For Joe Mazzulla in the picture on what Sports Spectrum, he's wearing kind of a long sleeve T-shirt, sweatshirt, kind of crew neck kind of deal, and
With
I
a
think,
cross on his little Nike swoop.
with a cross on his Nike swoosh. Yes, I'm glad you see that as well as I do. Yeah, the suit is kind of going the way of the past, although I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan from the 70s, and Tom Landry, that used to be his staple as the head coach, was to wear a suit on the sidelines. It was a funny joke that what if we put NBA coaches or NFL coaches in full uniforms like they do baseball? How funny would that be? To see, Joe Mazzulla wearing a Celtics jersey and a pair of Celtics shorts on the sidelines. But I digress.
There's some knees that I might not want to see.
Fair point.
Saying,
Very fair point. Very fair point. Well, I'll say this, though.
Okay, but
Joe
let's
Mazzulla,
talk about his faith.
Yes, that's what I'm here for, and I want to talk about that because he's got the cross on his Nike swoosh above the swoosh on his shirt. Joe was on the podcast a couple years back. He's a really interesting guy because he kind of fell into this job with the Celtics as their head coach. He was a second bench assistant coach, so he was kind of low on the totem pole. And the Celtics had a fallout with their head coach in 2022. And the next thing you know, Joe Mazzulla is elevated to head coach, and he's only been the best coach in the NBA since that point. He's won the most games. He won an NBA title 2 years ago. This year, for the Celtics, they were supposed to be not good. Let's just say they lost their best player, Jason Tatum, last year into this year with an Achilles injury, and they were expected. Many were calling it the gap year, GAP, gap year for the Celtics, meaning this is 1 year they'll take off. They won't, kind of probably play well without their best player, and then next year when they get him back, they'll be better. Well, that's not how Joe Mazzulla operates, and the Celtics won 56 games, second best team in the Eastern Conference, and the gap year Celtics are a very formidable opponent, we'll say, in these playoffs, and a lot of people are picking them to go very far. But Joe Mazzulla loves Jesus, and that's what's been fun about watching his journey. When we had him on, he always talks about the Lord, always talks about thanking God. At his house, Carmen, listen to this. He features a prayer board where he and his wife and their children add prayers throughout the year. And the board oscillates between prayers for their immediate family and friends and other loved ones, and even a prayer for him to, elevate in his career and rise through the coaching ranks. And, there's nothing wrong with asking God for prayers for, things like your job, things like other opportunities to open up, knowing that God's will is what we yield to, and it's his will, not ours. But it's been fun to kind of watch Joe Mazzulla have so much success. He's still a very young coach. I don't even think he's 40 years old yet. And he's had a lot of success leading with faith. And I just really love, he talks a lot about joy and grace and understanding that grace is how we're saved through faith, Ephesians 2. And he's really talks a lot about that too. So a lot of fun for Joe to have this success, to watch him, and we'll see what they do in the playoffs.
You're reminding me about a scene in Unsung Hero, which is about the family, the Smallbone family, and they have this wall in their home in that movie, and they all talk about it when you get an opportunity to actually chat, where they learned as children that you move things from the asked side to the answered side, and you keep them up there, and they're in front of you, and you can put anything up there on the on the asking God for side, and sometimes it's groceries. Sometimes it's opportunity. Sometimes it's favor. Sometimes it's forgiveness, all those things. And I just loved that visual in that movie. And that reminded me of it when you talk about the prayer wall in the Mazzulla home. I also just love that it seems intentional what he's wearing. Like, this isn't just the shirt that's, on this scene is not the only time that he literally wears the proclamation of the gospel on his clothes. And I appreciate that because that gives you a starting point for a conversation. And I value that. I think that's helpful.
Yeah, when they won the title in 2024, and all the eyes are on the Celtics, and they get a shirt and a hat. The shirt's usually a championship shirt. The hat is a NBA champion's hat. He wouldn't wear the shirt. Instead, he wore a shirt that said, "But first, ... let me thank God." And I thought, wow, okay, what a great moment where he's wearing the shirt. And again, small thing, right? Like anybody can put a shirt on, anybody can say thank God, but it's a conversation starter. And it's an opportunity to proclaim your faith on the biggest stage. And I love that about Joe.
Yeah, I do too. I really appreciate that. Okay, and we're going to turn you on to the latest issue of the Sports Spectrum magazine, where you're going to get to meet, if you haven't already, a baseball player whose name is Alex Call from the Dodgers, and just want to commend that to you. So we'll send you guys links to Sports Spectrum, but it's easy to find, sportsspectrum.com. Want to give a quick shout out to Alex Call?
Yeah, I do. I mean, Alex, the Dodgers, right? 2-time World Series champ back-to-back, and here they are again, the best team in baseball this year so far through the first 18 games. But yeah, Alex is a really awesome dude who loves Jesus, a dad of 2, just had a newborn, a second child, landed in the Dodgers by God's call, pun intended there, by being traded late last year before the trade deadline. He ends up on the Dodgers. He wins the World Series, and what an opportunity and a platform to proclaim Christ. And I've met Alex. I knew Alex well before he was on the Dodgers, when he was just trying to make it to the big leagues, and he's the same guy. And that's always a great sign when somebody gets to the highest level of sport, and you knew them when they were in the minor leagues a couple years earlier, and they are the same person. Success, ego, those things did not get to Alex, and he still understands who's on the throne. It's not him. It's not the Dodgers. It's Jesus.
I love that. I love that you bring us so many good stories, good news stories, and give us opportunity to talk about people who are called to serve God in the midst of all kinds of sports endeavors. You're also supplying us, Jason, all kinds of material that we can use with people who are passionate about sports, but maybe not passionate about Jesus. And so thank you for just all of the equipping that you do through Sports Spectrum. All right, that's Jason Romano. We love when he visits with us here, but you can find him always at sportsspectrum.com. All right, friends, we just got about a minute left. I think you probably already know that the Faith Radio fundraiser is coming up starting April the 27th. Would you be praying with us in advance of that? We are in a season of growth and opportunity, and that is exciting and sometimes overwhelming. I think that when God finds you faithful with, Scripture says this, right? When God finds you faithful with small things, he gives you more and more and more and more and more. Well, sometimes that opportunity gets a little overwhelming. We want to be strategic in our growth, but we are growing. And we want to grow always and in all ways in the advance of the proclamation of the good news of the gospel of Jesus and the equipping of the saints for the work of ministry. We want to be doing that every single day. We want to be driving in the direction of the gospel every single day. And you help us do that. Your gifts help us do that. And so thank you to each and every one of you that's given in the past. Thank you for those of you that give on an ongoing basis. Thank you for those of you that are going to give today at myfaithradio.com. Be praying with us because God's got great things planned. Thanks for listening to The Reconnect with Carmen LaBerge. Let us know how we can help you more fully reconnect the eternal with the everyday. We want to walk with you throughout your journey of discipleship. So let's connect. You can text us at 877-933-2484 or connect with us online at myfaithradio.com and on all our social media. I look forward to connecting with you as we each seek to reconnect the eternal with the everyday.
You might be feeling a deep need for God in your life right now. Hey, I'm Keith Stevens, spending time with CeCe Winans on the most recent episode of my podcast, talking about what it means to truly know Him.
Being in His presence is just amazing.
Hear the entire conversation on my podcast. I love that song. Download it wherever you get your podcasts and at myfaithpodcasts.com.
an epic 4-part audio podcast series, The Christ.
My hour has not yet come.
My son, your hour was written before time.
David Oyelowo.
He claims to be a king.
Tom Pelfrey.
My kingdom is not of this world.
Paul Walter Hauser.
He is the light, the true light.
John Rhys Davies and Patricia Heaton. The Christ, wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks to our friends at Thrivent.
A Marriage Moment with Joe and Tara Buchanan.
If I don't trust you with the little things of honoring your opinion, and then I'm not going to trust you with the bigger things.
I see things a certain way and say, here's what's happening and here's how we should handle it. And then you come in sometimes like, I think this is what's happening and this is how we should handle it. And that drives me up a wall. I'm like, why don't you instantly agree with me?
But the more that you value my opinion, even if it's wrong, the more I want to lean into what you think about this opinion.
I need to give you grace to say, occasionally his judgments will be wrong, and my opinions are not more important than you. My judgments aren't more important than you. I cannot elevate myself above you, and together our judgments and opinions actually make it more beautiful.
Normalizing struggle, maximizing hope. On the Behind Our Smiles Marriage Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, and at myfaithpodcasts.com.